Welcome travelers, this is Jada the Occultist. Today we will discuss Saturn's transition into Aries and how this major shift will impact our lives for each zodiac sign. Saturn will enter Aries on May 25, 2025, then briefly retrograde back into Pisces on September 1, 2025. However, from February 14, 2026, it will fully settle into Aries, staying there until April 13, 2028. So, what is the significance of this great transition? Let us wander through the cosmic tides together, unveiling the mysteries that call to us. Saturn is known in mythology as the god of agriculture, time, and discipline. Its Greek counterpart is Kronos, the deity who governs time and order. Kronos is also infamous for devouring his children, symbolizing his strict and unyielding nature. In astrology, Saturn is associated with limitations, responsibilities, and life lessons. The myth of Kronos eating his children reflects the inevitable passage of time and the harshness of discipline. Saturn reminds us that everything has a limit. You reap what you sow. For this reason, Saturn is one of the most significant planets governing karmic cycles and destiny's lessons. So what does Saturn represent in astrology? In astrology, Saturn governs karma, responsibility, discipline, challenges, and the concept of time. The placement of Saturn in our birth chart indicates the areas where we need to develop discipline and where we will face our most significant life lessons. It is also the planet that forces us to mature and confront reality. Many people fear Saturn because it reveals the truth in a sometimes brutal way. However, remember that while Saturn tests you, it also strengthens you. It gives difficult lessons, but the rewards are immense. The more disciplined, hardworking, and patient we are under Saturn's influence, the greater our success. Saturn completes a full cycle through the zodiac approximately every 29.5 years, spending about 2.5 years in each sign. The house and sign where Saturn transits indicate which life lessons we will face and the karmic themes we will encounter. Saturn is especially linked to clearing past life karmic debts and taking on new responsibilities, making its transits pivotal periods of transformation. Saturn is the planet of spiritual maturation. If we fail to learn our lessons during its transit, we will face similar challenges repeatedly. This is why Saturn cycles mark significant moments of awakening in astrology. Saturn transited Pisces between 2023 and 2025. Pisces is connected to intuition, the subconscious, collective consciousness, and surrender. During this period, the lessons you have learnt change your life distinctively. Saturn is the great taskmaster. It disciplines, structures, and demands effort. But in Pisces, a sign of duality, the rules shift. Pisces teaches surrender, faith, and flow. This transit asked us to balance both. Work hard, be disciplined, but also trust that sometimes, no matter how much effort you put in, you will receive what is meant for you in divine timing. Our escape mechanisms were tested, forcing us to confront what we had long avoided. We had to learn about our psychological, spiritual, and emotional boundaries, where we dissolve and where we must stand firm. This transit challenged our illusions, urging us to balance faith with discipline, dreams with reality. Collectively, themes of health, spiritual quests, and subconscious fears surfaced, revealing hidden wounds and pushing us toward healing. Saturn and Pisces delivered karmic justice. Some repaid long-standing debts, while others faced heavy reckonings. For some, this came as unexpected illnesses, chronic conditions, or life-altering diagnoses, serving as wake-up calls to realign with their true path. Wherever Pisces resides in our chart, we encountered the clash between idealism and reality. Saturn in Pisces tested the strength of our dreams. Were they built on illusion, or could they withstand the weight of reality? This transit was a teacher of duality, discipline and surrender, effort and trust. And to truly master its lessons, we had to face the trials it placed before us. Saturn is entering Aries on May 24, 2025. Dear cosmic travelers. But don't get too comfortable just yet. Because on September 1st, 2025, Saturn will begin its retrograde journey and step back into Pisces. This means the initial themes may come up, then retreat, giving us time to process, revise, and prepare. But the real initiation begins on February 14, 2026, when Saturn returns to Aries in direct motion. And this time, it's here to stay, until April 12, 2028. That's almost 3 years of cosmic lessons in courage, identity, and self-leadership. A new karmic cycle is on the horizon, and it's a bold one. Saturn, the taskmaster of the Zodiac, rules over time, structure, discipline, and maturity. It's the planet that asks us to grow up, to take responsibility, and to build something real, something lasting. Now imagine that energy entering Aries, the very first sign of the Zodiac. Aries is raw, impulsive, fiery, and fiercely individual. It says, I want, I go. I am. Is the warrior, the pioneer, the child that leaps before it looks. So when Saturn enters Aries, something powerful happens. The ego is tested. The impulse to act is slowed down. The desire to be first is confronted with the reality of what it takes to last. This is not an easy combination. Aries wants speed. Saturn demands patience. Aries wants freedom. Saturn enforces responsibility. But here's the beauty. Saturn in Aries teaches use how to turn raw desire into focused willpower. It turns impulsive action into strategic movement. It transforms rebellion into true leadership. This transit challenges us to take charge of our lives, not just in bursts of passion, but with sustainable strength. Learn to stand alone without crumbling. Build courage that isn't reckless, but rooted in wisdom. Ask ourselves, who am I, really, when no one is watching? This is the energetic clash between the inner child that shouts, I want it now, and the wise inner adult that answers, but are you ready to earn it? During this transit, new beginnings may feel slow, but they're being tested for longevity. Identity crises may emerge because the old version of you can no longer lead the way. You'll be asked to prove your strength not through dominance, but through integrity. You'll learn that real courage includes patience, restraint, and responsibility. Saturn in Aries is like training to become your own general. Not just a fighter, but a strategist. Not just impulsive, but intentional. Not just loud, but powerful in silence. And if this time feels difficult, know this. Saturn never shows up to punish. It shows up to build. To strip away illusions and replace them with something solid, something that won't collapse when the winds of life blow hard. And in Aries, Saturn builds you. Your identity, your will, your fire, but grounded, sharpened, refined. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the most responsible, resilient, and radiant version of you. But what happened the last time Saturn was in Aries? Let's rewind. From 1996 to 1999, Saturn moved through Aries. This was the rise of the internet, the digital revolution, and the acceleration of globalization. It was a time where people stepped into new roles, created new paths, but also had to learn how to handle this sudden freedom with structure. Go back even further. 1967 to 1969. Saturn in Aries accompanied major social movements, the rise of youth power, protests, and cries for liberation. It was the era of rebellion meeting responsibility, and deeper still, 1937 to 1940. Tensions were escalating across the globe, right before the outbreak of World War This transit has a history of testing leadership both personally and collectively. So what do all of these have in common? Every time Saturn enters Aries, the universe challenges us to redefine who we are, what we stand for, and whether we're willing to build our identity with intention, not just impulse. Saturn says, be brave, but be responsible. Move fast, but with wisdom. And now the part you've been waiting for. How will this Saturn in Aries transit affect your sign? Remember, listen to your rising sign first for the most accurate insight into life areas, and your sun sign for how it resonates on a soul level. If you're ready, let's begin with Aries rising. Dear Aries and Aries rising, over the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your 12th house, the most hidden and intangible part of your chart in the sign of Pisces. This has been a deeply karmic period. You may have felt isolated, emotionally drained, or spiritually tested. For some, it brought hidden health challenges. For others, heavy emotional endings or long-forgotten grief. Many of you found yourselves drawn towards solitude, spiritual practices, therapy, or even confronting the parts of your psyche that were long buried. You were asked to surrender, to let go of control, to confront your shadows, to heal what no longer serves your journey. Whether you were aware of it or not, you've been preparing for this moment. Now, Saturn enters your sign Aries. It is time the weight of becoming the discipline of identity. From May 24th, 2025, until April 12th, 2028, with a brief retrograde return to Pisces between September 1st, 2025, and February 14th, 2026, you step into a brand new karmic cycle. Saturn is entering your first house, the house of self, identity, body, initiation, autonomy, and direction. And this is big. The first house is the beginning of everything. It's how you present yourself to the world, your physical body, your instinctual impulses, and your life path. When Saturn moves into your first house, the universe asks you to grow into yourself. In this period, you will be restructuring your sense of self, becoming more responsible for your energy and direction, developing maturity in how you take action and express your desires, committing to your own becoming fully, authentically, and with intention. You may feel that life is getting more serious, that you're being called to take yourself more seriously. Saturn brings reality checks, and with it, the pressure to become the authority of your own life. This can manifest through external challenges, greater responsibilities, new leadership roles, or identity crises that push you to redefine who you really are. Physically, you might feel more tired than usual, or notice that your body requires more attention, discipline, and care. Saturn through the first house demands that you treat your body as the vessel of your destiny. You may be called to change your appearance, habits, or lifestyle in order to support a more authentic version of yourself. You may also find yourself becoming more disciplined in how you care for your physical body and appearance. This is a powerful time for establishing healthy routines, committing to a fitness goal, or even undergoing significant physical transformation. Weight loss, dietary changes, and a more structured lifestyle are all common themes when Saturn transits the first house, because this is when the body becomes a mirror for the soul's maturity. And yes, this period will likely feel intense. After spending the last 2.5 years feeling disconnected, as if life had you paused, or in some kind of spiritual retirement, now you're being reactivated. The fog is lifting. The quiet, internal restructuring is ending, and you're stepping into a much faster-paced, purpose-driven life. Things will start to move. You'll feel pulled back into the world, not as the same person but as someone reborn, with new responsibilities, new ambitions, new goals. It's a reinvention. Emotionally, this is a rite of passage. Saturn in Aries asks you to channel your famous fire not through impulse, but through direction. It's time to master your will rather than be mastered by it. This transit is not easy, but it is empowering. Saturn doesn't punish, it builds. And in your case, it's building you. By the time this transit ends in 2028, you won't just be older, a resurrection. And through the pressure, the structure, the grind, Saturn will help you become stronger, wiser, and more self-defined than ever before. Dear Taurus and Taurus rising, over the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your 11th house in Pisces, the house of community, long-term goals, friendships, and future visions. During this time, you may have experienced shifts, endings, or deep re-evaluations around your social circles, your sense of belonging, and your hopes for the future. Some friendships may have faded. Others revealed their limits. You may have found yourself withdrawing from large groups, becoming more selective with who you let into your world. You are learning the value of authentic connection, of aligned visions, and of building long-term goals with structure, not fantasy. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026 through April 12, 2028, it enters your 12th house, the most mystical, internal, and unseen part of your chart. This is not a time of spotlight. This is a time of soul work, of preparation, of release, of surrender. The 12th house governs the subconscious mind. Dreams, solitude, and spiritual connection to old patterns and karmic debts. Institutions, retreats, and inner healing. What is hidden from others, and sometimes even from yourself. 12th house shows some places such as hospitals, jails, closed environments. Abroad, when Saturn moves into this space, it's like the universe dims the lights. Not to punish you, but to sharpen your inner vision. You're being called inward, to reflect, to rest, to face the parts of yourself that have been long ignored. The 12th house is the final chamber of the Zodiac, a sacred cocoon of solitude and surrender. Here, the soul prepares for transformation in silence. Like a butterfly sealed in its chrysalis, you too are being called to rest, to reflect, and to allow the unseen alchemy of healing to take place. Because when Saturn enters your first house in 2028, your time of emergence will arrive, not as who you were, but as who you are always becoming. This is not an ending. In this period, you are in sacred preparation. As Saturn transits in Aries, you may begin therapy, start a spiritual practice, journal more, confront old fears, let go of toxic coping patterns. You may be called to care for others, or to deal with the emotional weight of caregiving, grief, or ancestral healing. Default. And yes, there will be moments when it feels like life is quieter, slower, even a little lonely. That's not failure. That's Saturn asking you to clear space. You are pruning the soul. And when the time comes, what grows will be stronger than ever. This is also a powerful time for taking care of your mental and physical well-being in quiet, committed ways. You may become more aware of your sleep, your immune system, your energy levels. Your dreams may become more vivid, your intuition sharper, your boundaries firmer. You may experience some challenges about your health. You may need to take care of your loved, especially old ones. You may take your retirement. You may start a new education in this period. For some Taurus souls, this retreat may take the form of maternity leave, pregnancy, or welcoming a new child. Saturn in the 12th can signal a time when you're physically stepping back, not to disappear, but to nourish life in its most sacred form. This is not an ending. This is the sacred pause before the beginning. And Saturn, as the wise teacher, walks with you every step of the way, holding space for your quiet metamorphosis. Dear Gemini and Gemini Rising, over the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been transiting through your 10th house, the pinnacle of your chart. This is the house of career, public image, legacy, and life purpose. And Saturn here didn't go easy on you. You may have faced career setbacks, a plateau in ambition, or deep questions about what you're building in this life. You may have felt unseen despite your efforts, or burdened by expectations and responsibilities. You were asked to define success on your own terms, and to let go of what wasn't aligned. Saturn tested your discipline, your leadership, and your willingness to stay the course when recognition didn't come easily. And though this path may have felt heavy at times, it was shaping you into someone who can hold authority with integrity. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026 through April 12, 2028, it enters your 11th house, the realm of community, future goals, and soul-aligned networks. From what am I achieving? To who am I building this with? The 11th house governs friendships and your social circle, community involvement and networks, long-term dreams and future goals, your place in the collective, hopes, wishes, and humanitarian causes. Your image in society. With Saturn here, the quality of your connections becomes more important than the quantity. You may naturally start to drift away from superficial friendships or chaotic groups. You'll crave structure in your community. People who are dependable, mature, and vision-driven. This can be a time of redefining your tribe. You may outgrow certain social spaces, or step into new ones that align more deeply with your values. You may even take on a leadership role within a community or a collaborative project. But it will require responsibility, time, and long-term effort. Saturn in the 11th also sharpens your focus on the future. Your dreams will not just be fantasies, they'll become projects. You'll be called to build the future you want, one decision at a time. No shortcuts, no illusions, just the slow, steady climb towards something meaningful. May also find yourself working behind the scenes on a larger mission, something that won't bring immediate results but will grow into something lasting. Think non-profits, activism, tech platforms, research collectives, or community movements. Saturn here says, you don't have to save the whole world, but you do have to commit to something bigger than yourself. And yes, there may be moments of loneliness. Saturn sometimes trims the branches of our social tree, but what remains is real, loyal. Aligned. Do not forget, what you build with others now shapes the legacy you leave. Dear Cancer and Cancer Rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been transiting your 9th house, the realm of higher education, belief systems, long-distance travel, and spiritual philosophies. This was a time when life may have asked you to expand your worldview, but through challenges rather than ease. You may have questioned everything you once believed. You may have faced disillusionment around religion, academia, or your life's direction. Some of you had to abandon paths that once felt meaningful. Others were pushed to study, teach, or relocate. And it was anything but effortless. Saturn in the 9th house tests the faith you build after the fall of old paradigms. It forces you to find truth that holds up under pressure. And now, that testing ground shifts. Saturn moves into Aries on May 24, 2025, dips briefly back into Pisces on September 1, 2025, and then returns fully to Aries from February 14, 2026, through April 12, 2028. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries, it enters your 10th house, the peak of your chart. This is the house of career, reputation, responsibility, legacy, and long-term achievements. And here's the truth. This is one of the most important transits of your life. Saturn, at the midheaven 10th house, wants you to grow up professionally, publicly, purposefully. It's not about hustle or external success. It's about maturity. About making decisions that your future self will thank you for. This period may bring Saturn transit in your 10 houses may bring career changes or promotions that come with more responsibility, a deep confrontation with your life, purpose. Pressure to define success on your terms, a need to rebuild your reputation or authority, public recognition or public accountability. You may feel as though the world is watching, and in many ways it is. This is your time to show what you're made of. Saturn doesn't reward shortcuts, but it deeply honors commitment, integrity, and staying power. It can be exhausting. It can feel like every move you make is serious and irreversible. But that's only because you're laying the foundation for the next years until Saturn comes here again. You might have to step into a leadership role, even if you don't feel ready. You may struggle to start business, projects or changes you have been planning for a long time. You might have to say no to distractions, limit your social life, or get ruthless with your priorities. You may experience pressure or even subtle forms of workplace bullying, especially from authority figures or bosses. Your work environment could feel restrictive or suffocating, leaving you drained. You might long to change your career path or industry, yet feel trapped or stuck in a cycle that seems hard to break. There might be so many unfair issues you may encounter. If you are looking for a job, you may feel trapped and may struggle. But sometimes you may need to rise yourself without any support or help. Do not forget, the climb begins now, and the view from the top will be worth every step. Dear Leo and Leo rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your 8th house, the house of psychological transformation, intimacy, shared resources, and emotional depth. This has not been a light transit. You may have felt like parts of you were being stripped away behind the scenes financially, emotionally, even sexually. Perhaps you had to confront fears around loss, trust, or dependence. Perhaps you experienced a breaking point in your relationships, or faced the shadows of grief, trauma, or financial pressure. Saturn in the 8th asks for radical honesty about what you're holding on to and why. Saturn moves into Aries on May 24, 2025, dips briefly back into Pisces on September 1, 2025, and then returns fully to Aries from February 14, 2026. Through April 12, 2028. Now, as Saturn enters Aries, your 9th house, a new chapter unfolds. From inner excavation to horizontal expansion. From grief and shadow work to wisdom and vision. From what must I release to what am I ready to believe in again? The 9th house governs higher education and spiritual knowledge, philosophy, faith, and belief systems, publishing, teaching and broadcasting, long-distance travel and foreign cultures, your personal worldview and life vision. Saturn's entry here asks, what do you truly believe and can you live by it? You're entering a time when your convictions will be tested. You'll be called to study deeply, to walk your talk and to build a philosophy rooted in lived experience, not abstract ideals. If you've been yearning for clarity about your purpose, this is when it crystallizes. But it won't be through grand epiphanies. It'll be through effort, through study, through long hours spent learning, integrating, and teaching what you've come to know. You may feel the pull toward academia, publishing, or a spiritual path that requires structure and serious commitment. Travel may become more purposeful, pilgrimages instead of vacations, journeys that stretch your soul, not just your passport. When Saturn transits the ninth house, it brings serious responsibilities in this area of life and it tests you. If you pass the test, you receive your reward by the time Saturn leaves. And this test might very well involve facing your greatest fears. This is a time to commit to what you know you came here to teach, share, or preach. Whether it's through writing, mentorship, or living your values out loud, your truth is meant to guide others. But you must earn that truth through patience, humility, and practice. You may also be challenged by authority figures, teachers, mentors, or belief systems that no longer resonate. Saturn here clears the path for what is aligned, by showing you what no longer holds weight. As you walk this road of higher truth, you're building something no one can take from you, a worldview forged by integrity and experience. Why? Your beliefs won't be borrowed, they'll be embodied. And as you step forward with this inner compass, you become not just a seeker, but a guide. Someone who knows. Meaning is not found, it is built. Do not forget the truth you dedicate yourself to now becomes the philosophy that guides your life. Dear Virgo and Virgo rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been transiting through your 7th house, the domain of committed relationships, one-on-one bonds, and long-term contracts. This was no light transit. You may have faced emotional tests in partnerships, disillusionment in love, or harsh truths about reciprocity. Some relationships may have ended, while others demanded effort, maturity, and renegotiation of boundaries. Whether single or partnered, Saturn asked, "Are you truly showing up? And is the other person doing the same?" These years taught you to commit with discernment, not from fear, but from clarity. To set standards not just for others, but for yourself. You've been refining what it means to truly share your life. Saturn moves into Aries on May 24, 2025, dips briefly back into Pisces on September 1, 2025, and then returns fully to Aries from February 14, 2026, through April 12, 2028. As Saturn enters Aries, your 8th house, the terrain gets deeper, more private, more vulnerable, more transformative. The 8th house governs emotional and financial intimacy, trust, power, and shared resources, loss, inheritance, and legacies, sexual bonds and psychological depth, rebirth through crisis and catharsis. With Saturn here, you are entering one of the most profound phases of inner work. This is a time when life may ask you to surrender what you cannot control and learn how to stand in your power, even when everything feels uncertain. You may be tested through themes of dependence and vulnerability, shared finances, deep emotional ties, or even facing the shadow aspects of your own psyche. Power dynamics come into play and Saturn won't allow avoidance. If something is broken beneath the surface, it will now demand to be addressed. This is not a time of superficial change. It's the deep excavation, the death before rebirth kind of change. You may also be asked to take responsibility for debts, taxes, joint accounts, or inheritance matters. Financial maturity becomes non-negotiable. It's time to create boundaries around what's yours, what's shared, and what's no longer sustainable. There may be a financial crisis triggered through a partner or shared resources. Issues such as bankruptcy, loans, lost money, or disputes over alimony may surface during this time. You might also discover an inheritance matter within your family that has been hidden or unresolved for years. It's important to pay close attention to accumulated debts, taxes, and financial obligations. Saturn does not overlook what's been ignored. Additionally, with Saturn transiting your 8th house, matters related to surgery or medical procedures may arise. This could include operations, cosmetic interventions, or health-related emergencies. The 8th house is nourished by crisis, And Saturn here can bring unexpected, intense situations that require deep endurance and resilience. And emotionally, Saturn may bring a dark night of the soul, not to punish but to purify. This is the house of psychological death and rebirth. Something old must be released so something new can be born. When Saturn moves through the 8th, the reward comes only after the deep work is done. But what it leaves behind is unshakable inner strength. You become someone who has faced the void and returned with wisdom. Someone who doesn't just survive storms, but alchemizes them. You're not losing control, you're learning that surrender is power, that healing takes time, and that what you bury deep now will either become your burden or your power. Do not forget, what you bury deep now will either become your burden or your power. Dear Libra and Libra rising, over the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your 6th house, the house of health, routines, work, and service. This has not been a glamorous transit, but it's been essential. You are asked to restructure your daily life. You may have faced burnout, chronic stress, health issues, or a lack of appreciation in your work. Perhaps you had to become more disciplined with your habits, or take on responsibilities that felt never-ending. You were forced to reckon with your limits, physically, mentally, emotionally. But Saturn never shows up to punish. It shows up to refine, to teach you that what you repeat every day shapes who you become. And now, having passed through this realm of discipline and humility, Saturn enters Aries, your 7th house of relationships. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries, beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026 through April 12, 2028, the 7th house governs marriage, partnerships and long-term unions, one-on-one relationships, romantic or business, contracts, legal matters, and commitments. How you project yourself onto others and vice versa. With Saturn here, the mirror gets sharper. You begin to see the truth of your closest relationships, not the fantasy, but the structure. Saturn asks, is this partnership built to last? And if the answer is no, you'll feel it. This can bring breakups, deep confrontations, or defining moments in relationships where you must choose between fear and maturity, codependency and commitment, illusion and integrity. But for those relationships that are built on something solid, this is when they deepen. This is when you build a future together. Saturn here rewards those willing to do the work, to grow up, to communicate with clarity, and to love with both feet on the ground. If you're single, this may not be a time of wild romance, but it can be a time of fated, karmic unions. People enter your life now to teach you something about yourself. Some stay, some don't, but all of them hold up a mirror. Default text in general. Saturn in the 7th house brings serious responsibility around relationships. You might enter a business partnership, and it will take time and effort to build a strong foundation. Or you might get married, but this is where caution is needed. This could be a karmic union. Not everything will flow like a romantic fairy tale. If you're already in a relationship, Saturn may bring separation or even divorce, because Saturn asks you to make space. And sometimes that means clearing what no longer serves you in order to allow something deeper to take root. This is a time of fated movement in your one-on-one relationships. People may enter or leave your life in ways that feel destined, but every shift is guiding you toward greater truth, maturity, and alignment. You might also face legal decisions on business partnerships, or binding contracts that require long-term thinking. You may also find yourself entering into formal agreements with professionals, consultants, therapists, lawyers, or other white-collar service providers. Saturn here demands clarity, structure, and mutual accountability in all contractual matters. Saturn in your 7th house is not here to ruin love. It's here to reveal its shape. It strips away illusions. Do not forget what you commit to now becomes the mirror through which you learn who you truly are. Dear Scorpio and Scorpio rising, over the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your 5th house, the realm of romance, pleasure, self-expression, children, and creativity. And it likely hasn't been all fun and games. This transit may have asked you to confront your relationship with joy itself. You might have felt creatively blocked, romantically restricted, or even isolated from the things that once made you feel alive. If you've been raising children, Saturn here may have increased your responsibilities tenfold. If you've been trying to conceive literally or metaphorically, it may have come with delays, tests, or serious decisions. But through it all, you've been learning how to take your own happiness seriously. Not as a fleeting emotion, but as a responsibility to yourself. You've been asked to create joy with integrity to build pleasure that lasts. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026 through April 12, 2028. Now, as Saturn enters Aries, your 6th house, the tone shifts dramatically. This is the house of work, wellness, routines, and service. And with Saturn here, the universe is asking you to show up. The 6th house governs daily work and responsibilities. Physical health and healing, routines and habits, boundaries around time and energy. Service, support, and employment. Saturn in the 6th is not glamorous, but it's powerful. Because this is where you master yourself. You may take on new work responsibilities, a heavier schedule, or even a role that demands greater precision and accountability. If you're employed, expect your job to get more serious. If you're self-employed, you'll have to refine your systems and strategies. But this isn't just about labor. It's about how you care for your body, your time, and your mental health. Saturn will reveal where your systems are broken and give you the opportunity to rebuild them with strength. You may adopt a pet, or if you already have one, you might find yourself needing to care for them more closely. Your living environment could shift in some way. And when it comes to your daily life, plans you've been postponing for a long time might now demand your attention. What you once avoided may now become unavoidable, pushing you to finally take action. Health-wise, this can be a time of reckoning. You might face a wake-up call around your physical or mental well-being. If there's a condition you've been ignoring, Saturn will ask you to address it not with panic, but with a plan. Long-term treatments, physical therapy, or structured wellness routines may become part of your life. You might also find yourself interacting more with medical professionals, healers, or even service providers who support your health and work assistants, therapists, doctors, or wellness practitioners. Saturn wants you to take these connections seriously, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. Saturn here may also bring karmic lessons through employment contracts, service agreements, or even your role as someone who serves others. Be mindful of burnout, overwork, or perfectionism. As you dedicate yourself to the small things, the daily habits, the tiny rituals, the silent disciplines, Saturn helps you rebuild your foundation from the inside out. Dear Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your 4th house, the family, home, places, ancestors, and karma. This period may have been a time of limitations, home and family issues. You may have experienced challenges with people in your daily life, like feeling restricted and unlucky. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026, through April 12, 2028, as Saturn enters Aries, your 5th house of creativity, romance, self-expression, and joy, the tone shifts dramatically. The focus moves from the practicalities of life to the playful and expressive parts of your world. 5th house governs romance, love affairs, and personal expression, creativity, artistic pursuits, and hobbies. Children and procreation. Fun, pleasure, and joy. This is a time to take your creativity seriously. The fifth house, while associated with play and spontaneity, now becomes the domain where you need to apply discipline and effort. You may feel like it's time to build something lasting in these areas of your life, whether that's a creative project, a deep romantic relationship, or even expanding your family. Now is the time to focus on yourself. Through Saturn, life will force you to learn that you need to value, care for, and honor yourself. There's no escaping this. If you've been focusing primarily on work and responsibilities over the past few years, now it's time to dedicate yourself to joy. You may find yourself more serious about pursuing creative endeavors that you've always been passionate about. Perhaps there are artistic projects that you've put off. It will be difficult, but Saturn wants to see effort as always. Romance may take on a more serious tone as well. If you're in a relationship, it could deepen or require more responsibility. The carefree, playful energy of romance may feel more structured now. If you're single, Saturn in the fifth may guide you to think seriously about the type of partner you want and the kind of love you want to build. Karmic partners, children and parenthood could also come into focus. Whether it's starting a family or taking on a more active role in the lives of children, this is a time for taking responsibility. Creativity will feel both grounded and challenging. If you've been struggling with creative blocks, this transit offers you a chance to work through them with structure and commitment. Saturn teaches that true artistic mastery comes through dedication, even when the inspiration feels hard to come by. While Saturn's time in the fifth house might feel like a serious shift from the carefree days of creativity and fun, it offers you the opportunity to build something real, whether it's in love, artistic endeavors, or personal joy. By committing to these areas with discipline and purpose, you create a lasting foundation for happiness and fulfillment. What may start as effortful discipline will eventually become a deep well of satisfaction, one that you can return to time and time again. Do not forget, what you create with heart becomes your true joy. Saturn will make you face with reality, which can be painful, but it is for your higher self. Stay in joy. Dear Capricorn and Capricorn rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been moving through your third house, the house of communication, learning, and local connections. This period may have asked you to refine your thought processes, strengthen your communication skills, and face some challenges in how you connect with others on a day-to-day basis. You've likely had to take a more serious approach to your learning, your social networks, and even your local environment. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026 through April 12, 2028. As Saturn enters Aries, your fourth house, the energy shifts to home, family, and your emotional foundation. The fourth house governs your roots, your sense of security, and your private life. With Saturn here, life is asking you to build a solid foundation at home and in your emotional world. It's time to turn your attention inward and focus on creating a stable, secure, and structured base for yourself. The fourth house governs home, family, and domestic life, emotional foundation and security, ancestry and roots. Private life and the inner self. Saturn in the fourth house can feel heavy because it brings a sense of responsibility to your home and emotional world. You may feel more serious about your family dynamics, your living situation, or your relationship with your own emotional health. If there have been any unresolved issues in your home life, Saturn will ask you to address them. This is not the time to ignore family matters or emotional wounds. It's a time for taking responsibility and making necessary changes to ensure your emotional well-being. His transit might require you to focus more on your living situation or your role within your family. There may be a need for a big change, such as moving, renovating, or creating a sense of order in your domestic life. You may also be called to take on more responsibility within your family, whether it's caring for relatives, healing old wounds, or creating a new sense of family dynamics. Saturn, in the fourth house, may highlight where you feel emotionally vulnerable or insecure. It's time to confront these feelings and work toward establishing a stronger sense of emotional stability. Saturn will encourage you to face any fears related to your home life or emotional past, and to build a more solid internal foundation. Although Saturn's energy here may feel like a heavy responsibility, it is ultimately a gift. This transit invites you to create lasting security in your emotional and domestic life. The changes you make now, though they may feel difficult, will set you up for long-term emotional stability. What you build during this time, whether it's your home, your family relationships, or your inner emotional world, will become a solid foundation for your future. Dear Aquarius and Aquarius rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been transiting your second house, the house of personal values, finances, and material possessions. This period may have brought you face to face with the reality of your financial situation, values, and what truly brings you security. You might have had to work harder than usual to build your resources, refine your values, or confront issues related to money and self-worth. Saturn in the second house often encourages a serious re-evaluation of what you consider important, both materially and emotionally. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries, beginning May 24, 2025, and settling fully from February 14, 2026, through April 12, 2028. As Saturn enters Aries, it moves into your third house, the house of communication, learning, and local connections. This marks a significant shift in focus. The third house governs your immediate environment, your relationships with siblings and neighbors, as well as how you think and communicate. The third house governs communication and expression, learning, knowledge and education, siblings and neighbors, short distance, travel and local connections. Saturn in the third house brings a more serious approach to how you express yourself and connect with others. This transit may encourage you to be more disciplined in your communication, refining how you share ideas and interact with those around you. You might find that you're asked to take on more responsibility in your local community, whether it's through communication, teaching, or even learning something new that helps you grow intellectually. Saturn in the third house asks you to take your communication seriously. This is a time for getting to the heart of what you want to say, and how you say it. You might be called to write, speak, or teach with more structure and discipline. Your mind may become more focused and sharp, but also more deliberate. It's a great time for formal education, research, or diving deeper into subjects that require persistence and commitment. On a more personal level, Saturn may bring your relationships with siblings or neighbors into sharper focus. There may be responsibilities that require you to engage more with these people, and you might have to work harder to nurture or repair these connections. If there have been unresolved issues with those close to you, Saturn's energy will likely push you to address them, perhaps through more direct communication or long-term problem-solving. You may find yourself involved in a close circle that is unfamiliar or different from what you imagined. Situations may arise where you see the realities of life. There could be issues with your close friends, cousins, roommates, or neighbors. At this point, you should act cautiously by setting clear boundaries. Saturn's transit through your third house isn't about limiting your ideas or curbing your creativity. Instead, it's about finding ways to communicate and learn in a more focused, disciplined, and productive manner. By committing to your thoughts, your learning, and your local connections, you'll find that your ideas have more weight and your words more power. What you create through disciplined thought and communication during this time will become your lasting foundation in these areas. Dear Pisces and Pisces rising, for the past 2.5 years, Saturn has been transiting your first house, the house of self, identity, and personal appearance. This period likely brought serious lessons about who you are, how you present yourself to the world, and your own sense of authority. You may have gone through a significant period of self-reflection and transformation, feeling the weight of responsibility when it came to defining your identity and stepping into your personal power. I know you're very tired. Saturn has worn you down in terms of your health, body, and habits. Neptune has also been traveling through you for a long time. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries beginning May 24th, 2025, and settling fully from February 14th, 2026 through April 12th, 2028. As Saturn moves into Aries, it enters your second house, the house of personal values, finances, and material security. This marks a shift from focusing on your self-image to focusing on what you value, how you earn a living, and how you define your sense of security in the world. The second house governs personal values, self-worth and material possessions, finances, income and resources, stability, security, and comfort. Saturn in your second house is asking you to take a serious look at your financial situation and your sense of self-worth. This transit could bring a period of hard work and discipline when it comes to earning money and building the stability you desire. You may feel a stronger need to be financially independent or to create more long-term security for yourself. If you've been careless with your finances, or if you've had a loose approach to money, Saturn will urge you to take a more structured approach. With Saturn in your second house, it's time to get serious about your finances. This is a period of hard work and responsibility regarding your income and resources. If you've been spending without thinking about the future, you may feel a strong urge to save, budget, and make more calculated financial decisions. Saturn will help you lay the groundwork for lasting financial stability. On a deeper level, Saturn in your second house also brings attention to your self-worth and personal values. You may feel compelled to define what truly matters to you beyond material wealth. This is a great time to reassess your values and make sure that your actions align with your deepest beliefs. The more you can live in alignment with your authentic values, the stronger your sense of security will feel. Saturn's transit through your second house may feel like a time of restriction, but it's ultimately an opportunity to build a solid foundation of security. As you focus on your finances, self-worth, and personal values, you will discover that the things you create with discipline and attention to detail will become the lasting pillars of your life. What you build now will provide you with the comfort and stability you need to thrive in the long term. As we reach the end of this journey, dear souls, remember to subscribe if this message resonated with you. Your thoughts and reflections mean the world to me, so feel free to leave a comment below. Until next time, stay aligned, stay glowing, and may the stars illuminate your way. With love and light, always.